And this leaves all options open by packing them in their own juices. Hi everyone, we're in the kitchen again, and we are going to work in tomatoes that are raw packed with no added liquids today. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kim and you are at Kim's Kozy Korner. It is in February, and in February some people call it Canuary for January and for February. But for me, I have to call it I got time to do it. So that's what we're going to do today. I have been on site working today. I usually work from home or I'm traveling, but I was local today. I was on site and now I'm home. I don't have a lot of time to do a lot around the house. So I decided to do something super simple today, but I am going to get big benefits from it. And that is canning some tomatoes. Now, this past season, for all of the tomatoes that we didn't eat, use for fresh eating, give away to the neighbors, family, friends, and animals in the garden, we decided to just freeze those tomatoes. So here's pictures of what they look like. I just took the tomatoes, I washed them, I cored them, and I stuck them in a Ziploc bag, y'all. That's what we did with them. And we put them in the freezer. We said we will worry about that later. Well, guess what, y'all? Later is here and we are ready to do something with those tomatoes. So I ended up with about 4-gallon bags and I think 1 pint bag or 2 pint bags, I don't remember now, to prepare those tomatoes for this process. This very simple process that we're going to do today. All I needed to do was get the skins off of the tomatoes. And no, y'all, I didn't put them in boiling water for a couple of minutes and peel them off. Here's the process that I use. So I'm in the process of getting ready to can tomatoes. And I am going to just do a raw pack of tomatoes, no added water, just raw pack. It's actually called raw packed tomatoes with no added liquid. That's what I'm getting ready to do. But I wanted to first capture how I'm getting the skins off of my tomatoes. And when I get them out the freezer, I put them in a strainer just like this right here. So it's in the strainer. You can see their skins still on here. But the skins, y'all, just slip right off. You see that right there? That skin just slipped right off. And then I take the skins off and then I'm putting them here in the bowl. And depending on what I'm making next will determine what to do with these tomatoes. But that's it. When I first take them out the freezer, I put them in some kind of container like this because for whatever reason, the bags always leak. And I'll leave them in the refrigerator to thaw out. And once it thaws out and my hands are not freezing, I can just peel them off just like that. No need for hot water or anything like that. And this is what they'll look like just before we start to prepare them. Now, y'all, wasn't that simple? Wasn't that super simple to do? The only bad thing about it, it might freeze your little fingers just a little bit. So you have to do a little bit at a time and walk away. But once I did that, y'all, I put the tomatoes back in the refrigerator, waiting for these few minutes that I have on today's date. And so these are the tomatoes now. There they are in this container right here. All different colors, and there's quite a bit of juice and water coming out of those tomatoes. But y'all, we're not interested in that water. We're interested in the meat of the tomato. And we are going to follow one of 2 very simple recipes, and it depends on how you want to process your tomatoes. So we have 2 options when we're dealing with tomatoes because it has a high acidic. They're more acidic, so the pH is lower on those. I don't know, high, low, basic is high, acidic is low. The main thing you need to know is that because of the amount of acid in your tomatoes, you can water bath can them. That's the key piece. High acidity, water bath can, or if you have a pressure canner and you don't want to spend that much time boiling your tomatoes on the stove, then you can pressure can them as well. So you got 2 options. We will be using this book right here. the big book, the big ball book of, complete book, I should say, of home preserving. The links for everything I'll be using will be below. But we'll be using that book today. And on page 356, there is a water bath canning recipe in here for raw packed tomatoes with no added liquid. So basically, y'all, we're going to put the tomatoes in this jar with either salt or citric acid, which we'll talk, with either lemon juice or citric acid and just a touch of salt. But we'll talk about that process in just a minute. And then we can water bath can for, I think it's like 85 minutes. If you have 85 minutes, which I do not. So we are going to go to the pressure canning recipe, which is on page 373 for tomatoes processed in a pressure canner. And we're going to do the raw packed tomatoes with no added liquid. So you got options. But in this recipe, you only need to process for 25 minutes. 25 minutes, 85 minutes. I got all day, 85 minutes. I don't have much time. We're going with the 25 minutes. So we will be doing the pressure canning method today. I already have my jars out. They've already washed. They're clean. I got all of the ingredients. And y'all, it's 2 ingredients. It's either these 2 or it's these 2. That's the only ingredients we need besides tomatoes. And we're doing it all raw packed. So I'm not boiling. I'm not heating my jars. I'm not doing any of that because we're going to start from actually cold, a little colder than room temperature. But we're going to start with cool tomatoes and cool water and bring all of that up and get it to pressure and do all of those kind of things. So I'm going to put the book away because I already know what I need to do here. But we need to talk about how much of everything. If you're going to use citric acid, so you don't have to use lemon juice. Some people say that lemon juice changes the flavor just a little bit of what you're canning. And I use lemon juice in my apples. I use lemon juice in all of my fruit jams and jellies and that kind of stuff. And I prefer lemon juice in my tomatoes. You can also use vinegar. I don't. I did that before. I did not like it at all. But I've always used lemon juice. Well, I decided to pick up a little bit of the citric acid, which is supposed to do the exact same thing as the lemon juice, but maybe it won't give me that lemon taste, even though I can't taste the lemon. Some people say they can. So I'm going to do some both ways today. As far as how much of each of the ingredients we need, it depends, okay? If I am doing quart jars, which is this right here, quart jar, then I am going to use a half teaspoon of citric acid, or I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, one or the other, half teaspoon or 2 tablespoons. And then as far as salt goes, I'm going to put a teaspoon of salt in each one of these jars. Now, if I'm doing a pint size jar, and this is a pint size jar, I would use a 1/4 teaspoon of the citric acid, or I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. That's it. That's all. Oh, and then salt, half teaspoon of salt. Those are my options. Now I'm going to start with the pint jars with the quart jars, because for the quart jars, I want to get as many of them in here as I can for the quart jar. And then depending on what else I need, I got some other options here for us. I think that's it, y'all. I think that's it. Let me go grab my half teaspoon for the citric acid. I don't know why I can't say that. I just struggle saying that word. Now I have all kinds of pressure canners, but the one that I'm going to use today is the 12-quart digital Presto canner. That's the one I'm using. Here's a picture of it right here. Now I have 2. This is the smaller of the 2. And this one I think is just a teeny bit faster, but the outside of the pot doesn't get hot. Now I did a video comparing the 12-quart to the 23-quart, I think is what it is. What is this? Let me tell you right before I get this all wrong here. I think that's the 12 quart. I really do. But I know the other one is the 23 quart digital Presto canner. So of the two, I'm going with the smaller one of the two because the outside of the container doesn't get hot. It doesn't hold as much. Like it will only hold 4 quart size jars that are wide mouth. And so I only have 3 wide mouth, and hopefully I can squeeze in 2 pint jars if I have to, or a pint and a half size jar. So I'm thinking it's going to be big enough and we're going to be okay. But let's jump in. Let me get this book out of the way. I've already told you how much sugar, salt, and how much lemon juice I'm going to use. The other thing, you can say, well, Kim, why are you just packing your tomatoes without any added juices? What about tomato sauce, and what about spaghetti sauce and pizza sauce and all of those other things? Y'all, I probably have a 2-year supply of thick, rich, what we call spaghetti sauce or pasta sauce. And I have several videos out there. Here's the thumbnail of a couple of those videos on the process that I use. And so I will make sure I put the links to those videos below for you as well if you're interested in pasta sauce. And then as far as my pizza sauce, I haven't done that in a few years, but y'all, we don't eat that much pizza around here. All right, I think that's it. That's all we need to talk about. Now we're going to have to get our hands cold, very, very cold, as I take these tomatoes and get them in here. Now the recipe says put the salt and your either lemon juice or your citric acid in first. So that's what we're going to do. I needed a half teaspoon. That's a half teaspoon. I'm going to do 2 jars of those, of the citric acid. And y'all, I've never used this before. I've had it. Actually, I've had it for over a year. And I've never used it because I've always liked the lemon juice. So we're going to put lemon juice in 1. And that's 2 tablespoons. And then I still need to add salt. Now, I'm sure since we're pressure canning, you can probably go without the salt. I'm not. I'm going to put my salt in here. I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of salt in each one of these containers. I'm not trying to season to taste. I'm just trying to give it some season. Salt just brings out the taste of your food as long as you don't put too much. That's my personal opinion. And y'all, I think we are ready to start filling these jars. And you don't know, but I'm up here cringing because these tomatoes just came out the refrigerator and I know they're ice cold. I know they are. So we are going to try to put the tomatoes in and we are going to pack them in pretty good. But we're really going to pack them in, y'all. That's the plan anyway. So let's see how we're going to do. And I have all kinds of tomatoes in here, y'all. I have paste tomatoes. I'm not cutting these up in any way. Let's talk about the different types. Everything's in here from paste to, let me get I have forgot my little funnel here, so I'll get the sides of the jar dirty. But paste, I have big slicing tomatoes in here. I have everything, y'all. Name it is in here. What I call specialty tomatoes. So orange jazz is in here. There's probably some Dr. Whitey's, some Kellogg's. Y'all, there's a little bit of everything in here. Rainbows in here. As far as my big beef slicing tomatoes, there's Bodacious, there's Delicious, there's any kind of brandy wine you can think about. I'm sure that's in here as well. So lots of tomatoes in here. But since we're not adding any juice, y'all, this should be a nice jar when we're finished. Now I got to pack it down. I got to find something to push it down properly. So let me move this just so you can see what I'm doing. You see here, I'm supposed to leave an inch or a half inch It says I'm supposed to leave a whole inch of headspace. So I got to really pack this down a little bit. I might even have to take a little bit out. But y'all, look at all of those colors. So you still have to debubble. Debubbling does not go away. It's actually probably even more important because there are lots of air spaces in here. So that's why it's so important to really pack this down. I'm going to call that good for the first jar, and we're going to push it to the side until we get all the jars full, and then we'll come back and see how we're doing. So you can say, hey, what are you going to use these tomatoes for? Well, I can use them for all kinds of soups. And y'all, I could go back later and turn these tomatoes into tomato sauce, pasta sauces, marinaras. I can turn it into all kinds of great things later. So it leaves me with options, especially since I already have so many tomatoes already. I can later come back and turn this even into like a tomato soup even. So like I said, we got options, y'all. We got options. And this leaves all options open by packing them in their own juices, by not adding any liquid. And it's going to be a richer tasting tomato when we get ready to use it because it hasn't been watered down by adding water or anything like that to it. So we're going to add some more to this one in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and get some of the bubbles out before I put the stuff in the top. I wish I'd done that in the other one. All right, we'll add a few more. That might be too many more. Nope, I think we did good. So I'm going to go ahead and pour a little more of this juice off. And y'all, this is good juice. I have not added water at all. There was a little ice in there. But this tomato juice, I'm going to pour it off, but I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm going to turn it into my breakfast juice for the morning. So, but let me pour it off of the tomatoes so that I don't put too much juice in this glass, into this jar. Oh, it smells like summer. I'm going to pour a little bit more off in just a minute. All right, let's keep working. I think these are going to look really good in the pantry with all the different colors. It's going to be pretty cool. Also, as far as from a direction standpoint, it doesn't matter if it's a pint or a quart. You still need to cook it for 25 minutes for pressure canning or 85 minutes for water bath canning. So they have to cook for a longer period of time because you don't have the juice in there. So that means it's going to be harder to get that heat to the center of that jar because it's just so thick. So don't cut back on the time, and make sure if you're doing it with no added juice, you have to increase that time to 25 minutes for pressure canning or 85 minutes for water bath canning. So I am giving you the safe canning recipes is what I'm giving you. I'm going to go ahead and turn this one into citric acid as well, or use the citric acid. This is a 1.5 pints. So if I was using a pint, it would be a 1/4 of a teaspoon. If it was a quart, it's an actual 1/2 teaspoon. So this is somewhere in the middle for the citrus acid. So I put a full 1/2 teaspoon in there just to be safe. And it's a 1/2 teaspoon as well for salt. Now the question will be, can I get all of the rest of these tomatoes in this one glass, in this one jar? I don't know why I keep saying glass today, y'all, but I need all of them to fit. Sometimes you just want that big chunk of a tomato, and I've always done stewed tomatoes for that. I could dice them up as well, but not dicing today. And y'all, it's going in there. We're looking good. Not quite full, but I'm going to take a little bit out of a couple of these. And I think that's going to make the difference for us. Because this one's got just a little bit too much, and so does this one here. So let's see if we can reduce that one just a bit. Actually, that may have done it right there. Oh no, lots of air bubbles. Air bubbles. I'll put that one back in now. This is the one that was super full. So there are my 4 jars, y'all. There they are, right there. Look at that, y'all. We are cooking with grease now. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this tray. And we're gonna talk about next steps. There are my jars. The next thing we need to do, y'all, is wipe the rims off of the jars. So we're gonna clean our rims, make sure we don't have anything on the rim. That's how we're gonna make sure we're gonna get that good seal. This is an important step if you want that good seal, y'all. I'm probably going to can some more jam here shortly. I gave quite a bit of jam away for Christmas, and oh my goodness, they were the perfect Christmas gifts. People were so excited. They really, really liked it. So we are going to go ahead and can quite a bit of jam as well. So one, I don't run out this season before it's time to can again. And I'm going to show you how to do it where I'm not dealing with fresh fruit. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it with frozen fruit. I got my lids and I got my rings, and I actually washed them up real good. In addition to just washing them up real good, I also gave them a little boil this time. Yeah, these lids and rims weren't really stored the way I normally like to store them, so we boiled them, if you want to say sanitize them, to make sure they're in good shape. Fingertip tight. And now we're going to take these and we're going to move over to the canner. So we're over to the canner, and this is the canner that we are using. Presto digital pressure canner. All right, we have it on. We know we are pressure canning, so I'm going to say, yes, I'm pressure canning, and I am pressure canning for 25 minutes. I haven't inserted the jars, but I'm inserting the jars. We are going to pass the warming phase. I'm going to put the lid on. So we've already inserted the jars. We're in the process of heating. Now, since I bypassed the step to heat the jars and fill the jars, because we've already done that work, it's going to take it a little longer to get up to pressure. So it's heating. Once it finally heats up and it's to pressure, then it's going to cook for 10 minutes at the right pressure. And then it's going to say, hey, put me on. And this is the regulator. Then we'll put the regulator on. But we don't need to do anything else for now, but wait for it to tell me to do the next step. And the reason why I like this, y'all, the outside of this thing stays cool. I don't have to accidentally worry about bumping against it. But y'all, that's it for now. We will wait till it tells me I need to do something else. So I'll bring you back in a little bit and we'll see how everything turns out. Okay, y'all, it's done. It says it's done. It's cooled. The little spot right here then dropped down. I was getting ready to open it. I had to stop because I had to get the camera out so you can see at the same time that I do. Now, I have never pressure canned anything that started off that cool. I've always started at room temperature, so hopefully I didn't mess up and everything's all broken inside, but we are going to see together. Now, it smells really good in here. Now, we are going to grab these out of here. And again, these were raw packed. When you raw pack, a lot of times the vegetables will rise up to the top, but over time they will settle down and mix in with the juices. So I don't want you to be surprised if we see that. I see very little siphoning off, but there's one jar right there. Now, this jar was not the prettiest jar. It was the last one we did, but it looks pretty good. Doesn't look like we had any cracking or anything like that. And you see here, it all rose to the top, all the juices down here at the bottom, but over time they will settle and they will mix together. You see there's yellows and greens in there. This one has a big orange tomato in there. So there are our 4 jars of tomatoes packed with no liquid. It's a quick way to get tomatoes canned when you don't have a lot of time to create a full meal in a jar. But y'all, that's it. Now we need to let these tomatoes completely cool. So I'm going to leave them here on the counter. I'm going to kind of push them back out the way. And we're going to leave them here for 24 hours at minimum to make sure that we have a good seal. And then we're going to remove the rings. We're going to put some dates on them. And y'all, then we're going to put them away so we can enjoy them for a later date. But y'all, I got 4-gallon and I think it was 2-pint bags out of my freezer, making room for this year's crops as they start coming in. And now I've created 4 jars of delicious tomatoes that I can use in lots of different things. Making soups, making sauces. I could just eat them as stewed tomatoes. We got a lot of options with these 4 jars of tomatoes. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Consider subscribing to Kim's Cozy Corner. I talk about gardening, indoors, outdoors, preserving food, as well as cooking from scratch. That's everything that we're doing here at Kim's Cozy Corner. And if it's something you're interested in, consider subscribing to the channel, turning on notifications, and telling your friends and your family all about it. So, until next time, and I hope there'll be a next time that you choose to hang out at Kim's Cozy Corner with me. Bye.